Introduction. The Murder of Kronos, the Linear Illusion. Imagine standing at the geometric center of an immense wasteland of black crystal. Before you, there are no holographic demons, no corporate crises, nor ruthless competitors. Before you rises a monumental structure, heavy and lethal, the hourglass of the three-dimensional matrix. Observe closely the human biomass swarming around it. They live terrified, with pupils dilated and fixed on the incessant fall of the grains of sand. They are absolutely and pathetically convinced that time is an unnegotiable tyrant that pushes them second by second toward old age, scarcity, cellular exhaustion, and finally, thermal death. They are slaves to the ticking clock. Watch them drag the heavy chains of their own biography. They cry for a dead past that is no longer rendered on any server in the cosmos, bleeding their valuable quantum voltage into rusted memories and traumas. Simultaneously, they beg and crawl toward an imaginary future, anxiously waiting for a magical tomorrow to deliver them. They wait for the economic and territorial sovereignty they are too cowardly to demand in this precise instant. Do you realize the lethal thermodynamic trap in which you dwell? By accepting the dogma of linear time, you are voluntarily signing a contract of electromagnetic slavery. You are accepting friction. You are decreeing distance. You are mathematically decreeing that an insurmountable distance exists between your pure creative will and the solid manifestation of your empire. The universe, in its deepest stratum of source code, is totally deaf to the ticking of your biological clocks. Linear time is not a fundamental law of physics, it is a metric of wear. It is an optical illusion invented by primitive mammalian brains to process the three-dimensional hologram without their fragile nervous systems collapsing from an information overdose. In the zero-point field, entropy is null. All the capital you desire, all the corporations you will dominate, all that was and will be exists. Everything exists, superimposed in a single and hyperdense block of probability, the eternal now. The supposed latency you experience between desiring an empire and physically possessing it is not real time. It is pure and simple electromagnetic resistance. It is the constant flickering of your own biological doubt. It is your doubt that fractures the collapse of the wave. This Path of Knowledge treatise is not a motivational seminar to learn how to better manage your executive agenda. It is a manual of ballistic execution. You are here to commit the ruthless murder of Kronos, the jailer of humanity. You must wield the scalpel of aseptic indifference, and decapitate the illusion of sequence. Are you prepared for the absolute impact? Do you have the tactical coldness to disconnect your consciousness from the chronology of the matrix, annihilating your parasitic nostalgia and your loser's hope at the root? There is no room for waiting. If you are going to reclaim the throne of the source code, you cannot afford the thermodynamic stupidity of waiting. You must compress all the geometric immensity of your empire, your alliances, and your territory into this single and solitary millisecond. This is the only one that possesses real jurisdiction over solid matter. Abandon the line. Become the unmovable point of infinite density and execute the death of time. Stop being a passenger of the hours and become the architect of the instant. The matrix demands your submission to the calendar, but the field only responds to the weight of your presence. Kill the clock and claim your kingdom. Chapter 1. The Hemorrhage of the Past, the Oxidation of Memory. The Threshold of the Broken Mirror. Imagine standing, alone, before an obsidian mirror in an empty room. The light is raw, aseptic, and allows no shadows in which to hide. Look into your own eyes. Behind that biological gaze that returns the reflection lies one of the most efficient thermodynamic self-destruction machines ever created by the Matrix, your 3D memory. At first glance, you seem like a quantum operator ready to reclaim his throne. You have the posture, the technical knowledge, you have memorized the laws of physics, and you know the unlimited potential of the zero-point field. But there is a lethal problem that the mirror reveals at an electromagnetic level. It is a leak. Close your physical eyes and scan your own auric field. Do you see those thick cables of gray static coming out of your neck and spine, losing themselves in the darkness behind you? Those cables are tense. They are pumping your vital energy, your latent capital, and your sovereignty backward toward a dead abyss. That is the hemorrhage of the past. You are bleeding your cosmic voltage to keep a ghost alive. Every time you justify your current financial mediocrity by a childhood trauma, or feel nostalgia for a golden age of your youth, or ruminate on a corporate betrayal from 5 years ago, you open a quantum artery. All the atomic power you should be using in this precise millisecond to collapse your empire in the eternal now leaks and is wasted on a dead hologram that is no longer rendered on any server in the cosmos. Do you understand the gravity of your thermodynamic stupidity? You are financing your own slavery. You are paying the mortgage on a ruined house that you no longer inhabit. The past does not exist. It is pure entropy. It is rusted software. And until you have the cruelty to amputate it, the universe will not deliver to you even a single atom of new power. You are a king anchored to a pile of ashes. The biology of nostalgia, the mammalian survival mechanism. To eradicate this infection, you must first dissect how it works with total aseptic indifference. Do not feel guilty. Guilt is another thermal leak. Simply observe the mechanism of the trap. Your mammalian brain, that primitive hardware you inherited from 3D evolution, is programmed exclusively for survival. It is programmed for survival and energy saving. For your biology, the unknown, the absolute present and the unmanifested future, represents a mortal danger because it requires a massive caloric expenditure to be processed. Instead, the past, even if it is full of misery and failure, is already known territory. You survived it. Therefore, your reptilian brain prefers to anchor you to a family trauma or a story of poverty because it is a predictable environment. Nostalgia and resentment are simply the chemical sedatives that your brain secretes to keep you docile. Imagine how pathetic this truly is. The human biomass walks across the ash board, dragging immense backpacks full of junk. The insults they received, the companies that went bankrupt, the mistakes they made. They believe their past is their identity. They believe that without that story of pain, they are not authentic or deep. They have sold you the lie that your scars make you strong. False. In the physics of the Creator, scars are not medals of honor. They are evidence that in the past, you were weak and ignorant enough to allow the hologram to generate friction against you. Scars are marks of a failed defense. The quantum operator is not proud of his resistance to pain. He is proud of his ability to become an unattackable superfluid. But you cannot be fluid if you weigh 100 tons. By clinging to your biography, you are increasing your inertial mass grotesquely, making you slow, heavy, and predictable. The fraud of the healing process, the therapeutic trap. Here is where we must destroy, with an unnegotiable ballistic coldness, the most seductive trap of the modern world, the industry of healing and inner work. The biomass, in its desperate attempt to feel important, has created a cult around trauma. They tell you that to be free you must go back. They say you must connect with your wounded inner child, analyze why your parents did not love you enough, or dig in the cemetery of your mind to find the root of your financial block. Analyze the electromagnetic aberration of this practice. In the quantum world, where you put your attention, you collapse. You collapse the probability wave. When you sit for years in a therapy, whether psychological or esoteric, talking incessantly about your past pain, you are not releasing it. You are rendering it. You are injecting zero-point energy into a defective program, fattening the parasite and giving it texture and mass. Trying to heal the past by digging into it is like trying to put out a fire by injecting pressurized oxygen. It is like drinking poison every day in small doses to try to mathematically understand why you are dying. Imagine an absolute monarch of a galactic empire. Does he stop to cry over a past insult? Does he ask the universe to stop so he can process his emotions? No. The true creator annihilates the relevance of the event through tactical ignorance. You do not need to understand your trauma to be free of it. Analytical understanding is the consolation prize of slaves. You seek empirical results. Empirical. You seek liquid capital and quantum sovereignty. For that, the only functional medicine is not therapy. It is the cold-blooded murder of the importance you give to your history. You must execute the deletion of the file. Stop being a historian of your own misery and become the architect of your vacuum. The thermodynamics of amnesia, the guillotine of the now. How do you stop a quantum hemorrhage of this magnitude? You do not do it with band-aids, nor with soft mantras, nor by forgiving your enemies with false humility. You do it with a cold steel guillotine. You do it by applying active amnesia. Imagine yourself again before the obsidian mirror. You have in your hands a thermal knife forged in the darkest and heaviest indifference of the universe. You are going to execute the cut. The biomass believes that forgiving is an act of morality or spiritual superiority. In the path of knowledge, forgiveness is a simple thermodynamic transaction. It is a cut. You hate who betrayed you because your hate keeps you quantumly entangled with that person. Your resentment is a cable through which you are sending your money, your peace, and your power to your enemy. Forgiving, in this ecosystem, means cutting the power supply with the most absolute contempt. It means saying, my voltage is too expensive, too sacred and lethal, to waste it financing your existence in my memory. Imagine lifting the thermal knife. Observe all those grey static cables that join you to your past failures, to the debtor who did not pay you, to the family that did not believe. To the you of the past, who was weak, fearful, and pathetic. Do not feel pity. Cut. Feel the silent explosion in the fabric of space-time behind you as you sever the cables. Watch how that 3D history, left without the oxygen of your sustained attention, withers and disintegrates into dust. It is gone. The vertigo of being nobody, the blank slate. In the exact millisecond in which you amputate your past, your biological brain will enter total panic. Prepare for the vertigo of being nobody. Your ego will scream inside your skull, if I am not the man who survived bankruptcy, if I am not the victim of this society, then who am I? Endure that suffocation. That is the geometric tension of true birth. The fear of the blank slate is what makes humans run back to rummage through the trash of their memory. They want to have a defined self, even if that self is a prison of misery. They prefer the familiar jail to the infinite void. But you, who demand the crown of the monarch of the instant, must assimilate the terrifying beauty of this amnesia. By having no personal history, you are mathematically unpredictable for the matrix. The 3D algorithm, which reads your past data to project your future scarcity, suddenly finds no files. You appear on the cosmic radar as a system error, an entity of zero friction, weightless, without adhesions, and without physical limits. Imagine the thermodynamic magnitude of this vacuum. All that immense energy you spent on identity suddenly bounces back and accumulates in the center of your chest. Your voltage level shoots toward negative entropy. You are a nuclear reactor that has just closed its most lethal fissure. You become massive, dense, and dangerous. You are a singularity in the middle of the hologram. Without a past, you are a force that can only be defined by what you execute right now. The dictatorship of the present millisecond. Now that you have burned the ships and there is no historical terrain to retreat to, you only have one single refuge, the eternal now. Look at yourself. You are standing at the precise geometric point where probability collapses. You have no cosmic debts. You have no karmas to drag. You have no karmas because the biological entity that generated that karma has just been decapitated. You were born a nanosecond ago. Quantum sovereignty demands that you treat each blink of your eyes as the Big Bang. Imagine walking toward the ashboard, entering a boardroom or opening your accounts. Do not enter with the energy of the man who failed yesterday. Enter with the ballistic authority of a monarch who has just been engendered by the unified field in a state of immaculate perfection. When someone from your environment, the biomass that knew your previous version, tries to remind you. When they try to remind you who you were, or throw a past failure in your face, or treat you with the familiarity of the slave, crush them with your indifference. Look at them as if they were speaking a dead language. They are talking to a corpse. You are not the person who woke up in your bed. You are the creator, resetting the matrix in this exact millisecond. Your presence is the only law. The past is a shadow that has lost its source of light. you are the only source. By staying in the now, you become the unshakable axis upon which the entire three-dimensional world must begin to rotate. The closing of the fissure. Look at yourself one last time in the obsidian mirror. The reflection no longer returns the image of a tired survivor, loaded with the medals of trauma and the scars of effort. The reflection returns a silhouette of dark matter, a hyper-dense organism that does not emit static, that has no history. It returns one who seeks neither compassion nor applause for what he suffered. You have stopped the hemorrhage. The oxidation of memory has been purged from your cells. The energetic capital of your past has been expropriated and compressed into the lethal bullet of the present. You are ready to fire. You have crossed the first threshold to murder Kronos. You have annihilated what was. But the linear matrix is a two-headed monster. If the past is the hemorrhage, the future is the thermal leak. The ego, terrified of not having a past where it can hide, will desperately try to throw you into the tomorrow. It will try to throw you into the abyss of the anxiety of tomorrow, injecting you with the most subtle poison of the biomass. Hope. Prepare yourself, for the second threshold demands that you murder your expectations with the same coldness with which you have just murdered your memories. Advance. Chapter 2. Tomorrow's Anxiety. The Thermal Leak of Hope. The Threshold of the Future Mirage. You have decapitated your biography. You have cut the thick cables of grey static that drained your voltage toward the past and let your personal history wither into cosmic dust. You stand at the center of the blank slate, free from the dead weight of your memory. But the biological ego is a parasite that abhors the vacuum. Imagine what your reptilian brain does in the exact millisecond you take away its past. Terrified by the vertigo of being nobody in the eternal now, it desperately turns around and digs its claws into the horizon. It projects a new holographic hallucination in front of you. Tomorrow. Open your eyes and observe this mirage. Visualize that timeline stretching forward, full of goals, financial projections, market fears, and catastrophic scenarios that have not yet occurred. Your ego whispers, "It's okay, we are no longer yesterday's failure." But look ahead, we have to prepare. We have to worry about what's coming. We have to have hope. Stop immediately. If you take a single step toward that illusion, if you allow your analytical mind to project a single nanosecond outside of this instant, you will chain yourself back to the matrix of friction. The past was a hemorrhage, the future is a massive thermal leak, and hope is the most lethal poison. The heresy of hope, the loser's sedative. Let us analyze hope with the aseptic indifference of the absolute creator. Three-dimensional society has elevated hope to the category of divine virtue. They tell you never to lose it, that you must wait for better times, that you must look toward tomorrow with faith that the universe will reward your suffering. Do you comprehend the thermodynamic humiliation enclosed in this word? In the physics of conscious matter, hope is the empirical admission of impotence. Whoever has hope is declaring, with every electron of their auric field, the following heresy. In this precise instant, I do not have the power. I am a beggar. I am at the mercy of external circumstances, and I beg a future timeline to save me from my current misery. Hope is the sedative of losers. It is the anesthesia the system administers to the human biomass, so they tolerate a life of scarcity and mediocrity without rebelling. They keep you docile. They keep you docile because they promise the reward will arrive tomorrow, in the next quarter, or in the next incarnation. Imagine a quantum monarch, a hyper-dense being who dictates the laws of space-time, sitting on his throne, clasping his hands and hoping things turn out well. It is a grotesque image. The quantum operator abhors hope because he does not delegate his sovereignty to a calendar. The creator does not wait for matter to organize itself. He forces it to collapse through the imposition of his gravitational mass. When you hope, you generate distance. You create an electromagnetic abyss. You create a kilometric distance of imaginary time between your will and your result. And in that abyss, in that imaginary space, your desire cools down, dilutes, and dies for lack of pressure. You are bleeding your capacity for manifestation into a coordinate that does not exist. Stop hoping and start imposing. The physics of anxiety, the thermal leak. If hope is passive, its twin sister, anxiety, is an active and destructive thermal leak. Imagine your consciousness as a magnetic confinement nuclear reactor. To fuse atoms and collapse a new physical reality, capital, power, dominance, you need 100% of your attention to be confined. You need 100% of your plasma confined in the geometric center of the reactor, the eternal now. But what happens when you worry about tomorrow? What happens when you go to bed and your mind starts calculating, how will I pay that debt next week? What if the client cancels the contract next month? What if the economy collapses next year? In that millisecond, you have just opened an exhaust valve. Imagine seeing the hyper-dense plasma of your reactor shooting outward, dissipating into the cold air of the matrix. You are taking your vital energy, extracted from point zero, and sending it away. You are sending it to an empty hologram that has no density. The future does not exist. It is a dead coordinate. By sending your attention toward next month, you leave your current coordinate, the only place where you have operative jurisdiction, completely empty of voltage. You become a ghost. As your present is left without electromagnetic energy, the 3D universe assumes control of your environment and fills it with entropy and chaos. You yourself finance your own disaster by abandoning the command deck of the instant. Anxiety is the mathematical proof that you are terrified of your own immensity. You prefer to wear yourself out trying to control a million non-existent future variables instead of sustaining the terrifying and relentless immobility of the now. You are a sovereign who has fled his palace because he is afraid of the silence of the throne. Return to the center and seal the leaks. The linear process scam, the corporate mirage, to keep you trapped in this thermal leak, the system has created another monumental lie. The cult of the process. Personal development, the corporate world, and false spirituality bombard you with the same narrative. Success takes time. You have to go step by step, build your future brick by brick. They teach you that evolution must be painfully slow, linear, and sequential. They program you to accept latency as a natural law. This is Newtonian physics for mediocre organisms. It is the mechanics of dragging stone blocks up a slope. In Path of Knowledge, we operate under high-frequency laws. In the quantum world, the linear process does not exist. An electron does not walk slowly from one orbit to another over a period of time. When it receives the necessary voltage, it instantly disappears from its lower energy level and materializes at the higher level. This is called a quantum leap. There is no transit time. There is no latency. There is an absolute change of state in a Planck time, functional zero. Imagine the thermal arrogance required to apply this to your life. Why are you tolerating your financial empire taking 10 years to build? The only reason for the time gap is your doubt. Your own biological friction slows the collapse. You yourself inject time into the equation by constantly thinking, I'm not ready yet, I still need to learn, the market is not prepared. Are you willing to abandon the humiliating idea of the process? Can you stop trying to improve 1% every day? Can you stop acting like a disciplined slave and dare to transmute 100% of your source code in this next exhalation? The matrix feeds on your waiting. The sovereign feeds on the collapse. Kill the sequence and demand the totality of the result in the only moment that has the mass to sustain it, the present. Ballistic certainty replacing the poison. If you extirpate hope and annihilate anxiety, what do you put in their place to keep your empire moving? You replace them with a state of unnegotiable coldness, ballistic certainty. Imagine an elite sniper positioned 1,000 meters from his target. His finger caresses the trigger. His breath stops. In the millisecond before firing, do you think the sniper has hope of hitting? Do you think he is sweating with anxiety, imagining the bullet might stray? No. If there is a single drop of hope or doubt in his bloodstream, his pulse trembles and the shot fails. He would be an amateur. The sniper does not hope. The sniper calculates and executes. He knows the wind speed, the bullet drop, the air humidity, and gravity. When he pulls the trigger, the impact is not a future possibility. It is a thermodynamic conclusion that already happened in his mind before the gunpowder even detonated. Imagine adapting your mind to this same surgical frequency. When you issue an order to the unified field, be it a contract, mass liquidity, or sector dominance, you must do it with ballistic certainty. You do not wait for it to happen. You do not cross your fingers. You have already won. Imagine that you close the contract in the boardroom of point zero, and upon opening your eyes, you have already cashed the check at a vibratory level. Your nervous system relaxes with the bored indifference of one who already has the result in his pocket. When you operate this way, your wave travels without friction. Suffocating tomorrow, the annihilation of when. For ballistic certainty to settle permanently in your biological hardware, you have to eradicate from your vocabulary the most toxic word of the hologram, when. Imagine the following scenario. You condense your attention, descend to point zero, and emit the sub-bass frequency demanding reorganization. The pulse goes out, perfect and dense. But then your mammalian intellect wakes up and asks, excellent, and when is this going to happen? Tomorrow, in a month. In the exact millisecond you formulate the when, you have just activated the quantum abort button. You have signaled your own lack. By asking when, you are recognizing the existence of linear time. You are telling the universe, I recognize I don't have it right now, and I assume there is a temporal abyss I must cross. The universe, obedient to your code of friction, immediately creates that temporal abyss. It freezes your miracle. It places your miracle perpetually on the event horizon, always one day ahead of you, always unreachable. Do you have the arrogance to suffocate tomorrow? You have to operate your corporation and breathe as if latency were a myth. Imagine your physical body is on Tuesday, but your reality is the impact. You have eliminated resistance. When the 3D ego screams for you to worry about next month's mortgage or the market crash, you must look at it with the contempt of an emperor to a slave. Starve it. Refuse to project your attention a single centimeter beyond the radius of your own physical shoes. The osmium anchor, the anchored monarch. Look at yourself now. Imagine standing on the ash board. You have decapitated the memory of the past and just suffocated the hallucination of the future. You have closed all the exhaust valves of your nuclear reactor. Do you feel the brutal atmospheric pressure of this state? It is the weight of truth. Since you do not dissipate energy remembering who you were, and you do not dissipate voltage worrying about what you will be, 100% of the dark matter from the field has been forced to concentrate exclusively on the geometric point of your current position. You have become an osmium anchor. You have become an osmium anchor in the fabric of reality. You are hyper-dense. You are unmovable. The biomass around you runs hysterically, swept away by the winds of economic panic, biological aging, and fear. You see them pass by like blurred specters, dragged by the current of linear time. But that current no longer has jurisdiction over you. The wind howls, the economy trembles, the tomorrows threaten, but you do not retreat or yield a single millimeter. You are anchored in the bedrock of the singularity. The second illusion has been shattered. You have understood that tomorrow is for slaves. You have understood that the only coordinate where magic and mathematics collapse matter is the nanosecond you are breathing right now. But sustaining this density requires a lethal discipline of focus. The blinking of your attention is what allows the hologram to reassemble. The Zenon effect awaits. Chapter 3. The Quantum Zeno Effect, Freezing the Matrix. The threshold of the blink. You have murdered Kronos. You have amputated the hemorrhage of your past and suffocated the thermal leak of your future. You find yourself anchored in the bedrock of the eternal now, transformed into a mass of hyperdense osmium that does not yield a single millimeter before the pressure of linear time. But the holographic universe is a predatory and deceitful ecosystem. It is not enough to collapse the probability wave just once. It is not enough to feel the point zero for 10 minutes in your room, alone and in silence, only to then step onto the ashboard and allow 3D reality to dictate its rules. Imagine standing at the center of your unmanifested empire. You have issued the order. The sub-bass frequency has struck the unified field. Dark matter has begun to obey you and structure your results. And then, you blink. You open your physical eyes. You look at your bank balance and see it lacks the zeros. You look around and see the same furniture, the same logistical problems, the same market resistance. Your biological brain processes this visual information, feels a microsecond of panic and whispers, "It didn't work, nothing has changed." In that exact millisecond, you have just committed thermodynamic suicide. By withdrawing your attention from the perfect collapse you had forged in the vacuum and returning it with fear to the illusion of physical matter, you have aborted the quantum operation. You have allowed the hologram to reset. Welcome back to the tyranny of the quantum Zeno effect. You are a slave again. The physics of relentless observation, the Zeno effect. To master this third door, you must stop treating observation as a cheap philosophical concept and understand it as pure ballistic mathematics. In high-frequency quantum mechanics, there is an empirical phenomenon proven in laboratories called the quantum Zeno effect. The premise is terrifying in its simplicity. If you take an unstable system, like a radioactive atom about to decay, and you measure or observe it in a continuous and uninterrupted manner, the atom freezes. Constant observation robs the system of the space-time necessary to evolve toward its state of decay. The relentless gaze of the observer stops entropy. Let us apply this mathematical violence to your life. The local universe, your economy, your biology, and your empire are that unstable atom. When you, the quantum operator, sustain a hypergeometric image of absolute power in your mind with ballistic certainty, you are forcing the matrix to maintain that form. The problem with the human biomass is its intermittent attention. They meditate for half an hour in the morning, projecting abundance and sovereignty. During those 30 minutes, the quantum atom of their wealth begins to stabilize. But then they get up, check their phone, read about inflation, and they blink. By blinking, they stop observing sovereignty and begin to observe scarcity. The quantum atom, free from the stabilizing pressure of the creator, immediately collapses toward decay. The biomass spends 23.5 hours a day observing their misery. They try to stop a 1,000-ton train by blowing through a straw. The laser of infinite density, the monarch's gaze. To freeze the matrix in your favor, you have to transmute your attention. Your focus can no longer be a weak flashlight that flickers intermittently in the dark. It has to become an industrial laser of infinite density. Imagine that your consciousness is a continuous gelid beam coming from your pineal gland. It anchors directly into the source code of your objective. Are you closing a massive corporate deal? Are you restructuring your financial architecture? Imagine fixing that laser on the already consummated result. Do not look at how it will happen. The how is the labyrinth where the analytical mind blinks. Fix the laser on the signing of the contract, on the liquid capital resting in your servers. Now, hold the beam. Your biology will beg you to look away. The phone will ring with bad news. Your family will try to inject their static. The global economy will threaten a collapse to distract the creator. Everything on the 3D ashboard is designed specifically to make you blink, to distract the creator and steal the sovereignty over the wave collapse. Do you have the aseptic coldness to ignore the fire in the outer house while you continue forging steel in the reactor core? The monarch does not react. He does not react to the visual stimuli of a delayed hologram. He knows that solid matter takes time to render. What your physical eyes see right now, the lack of money, the conflict, the tired body, is not the present truth. It is the light of a dead star. It is the yesterday. Why fear an echo? Annihilating sensory doubt, tactical blindness. To sustain the Zeno effect, you have to develop tactical blindness. This means learning to look at the three-dimensional evidence surrounding you and declaring it absolutely irrelevant. Imagine opening your bank account or reviewing your company's balance. The numbers say you are losing. Your heart races. Fear tries to infiltrate your auric field. This is the millisecond of war. This is the breaking point where slaves are separated from monarchs. If you look at those numbers in red and feel fear, you have just injected the massive force of your observation into scarcity. You have frozen the bankruptcy. You have told the universe, this is real. This dominates me. Imagine executing the guillotine of Wu Wei. You look at the same red numbers, but you observe them through a titanium wall of aseptic indifference. They do not alter you. They do not alter your pulse. You deny them your power supply. You tell yourself with gelid arrogance, this is only a delay of the 3D server. The code has already been rewritten at point zero. That is the true black magic of quantum physics. When you observe your own crisis with absolute indifference and sustain the vision of victory, the crisis suffocates itself. The matrix enters thermodynamic panic. The system realizes it cannot extract friction from your electromagnetic field. And because the universe abhors dissonance between an observer's atomic pressure and his physical environment, it is forced to rearrange the electrons of the outside to match your interior frequency. Freezing entropy, immortality in the instant. The Zeno effect does not only apply to your bank accounts and your corporations. It is the master key to dominating the entropy of your own biological avatar and your spatial relationships. The biomass ages, gets sick, and deteriorates because it continuously observes its own decay. They scan for wrinkles. They read medical statistics about old age. They observe the biological clock with panic. What occurs quantumly? They freeze and accelerate the state of decay. Imagine snatching your biology from the tyranny of time. If you sustain uninterrupted self-observation of a hyper-dense organism, you stop time. If you observe an organism of zero friction and perfect cellular regeneration, the hologram of your body has no space-time to decay. You stop oxidation. It is not healing mysticism, it is pure thermodynamics. Illness and exhaustion are forms of friction created by a nervous system in constant conflict. By applying the gelid immobility of the Zeno effect over your identity as an undefeated operator, you eradicate internal conflict. Cells stop fighting. They become superconductors of your will. Your biology becomes a crystalline reflection of your mental density, immune to the entropic noise of the environment. The Cyclops tension. One single eye, one single truth. Imagine that you have transmuted into a cosmic cyclops. You no longer have two biological eyes that scan the world looking for threats, doubting, comparing physical reality with your inner vision. Those two eyes represent duality, conflict, the hemorrhage of doubt. You have closed the 3D eyes. You have opened a single and massive central eye in the core of your mind. It is the eye of singularity. This eye does not blink. This eye does not seek confirmation on the ashboard. This eye projects its own light. Imagine walking through the world with this unshakable gaze. You are at a meeting. Everyone is discussing an impossible problem. The biomass offers excuses, complains about the economy, points out physical obstacles. You are sitting at the head of the table in absolute silence. Your central eye is fixed, with nanometric violence, on the already manifested solution. You are freezing them. You are applying the quantum Zeno effect over the entire room. Your geometric tension is so crushing that the air becomes heavy. Your partners begin to feel uncomfortable with their own negativity. Excuses die in their throats because your uninterrupted gaze is disintegrating the probabilities of failure. You force them to align. You are freezing the matrix so that it can only render one single path, the one you designed. You are the immovable point around which the chaos of the room must reorganize into perfect order. Your silence is a command, and your gaze is the scepter of your sovereignty. Contempt for sequence, rewriting the matrix. The creator does not need the domino pieces to fall one by one. Sequence is a lie designed to keep you busy, sweating, and spending your thermal capital. When you sustain the Zeno effect without blinking, you discover the flaw in the security of the holographic system. You rob the matrix of time. By robbing the matrix of the time it needs to process the logical sequence of events, the matrix collapses. Imagine that your uninterrupted gaze exerts so much pressure on point zero that the 3D server simply yields. You do not have to take steps A and B. You move directly to the final result. The universe, seeing that your attention is a static and absolute laser on step Z, generates a quantum leap. It eliminates distance. The billionaire investor appears out of nowhere. The corporate structure adjusts itself through fortuitous accidents. The healing of your physical avatar occurs in a single night. The biomass, from its linear and pathetic vision, will call you lucky, or they will say you cheated. They will say that has no logic. Smile with the aseptic cruelty of one who knows the trap. Logic is for slaves who respect the rules of their prison. You are the architect of the code. You have understood that solid matter has no will of its own. It is just an electromagnetic prostitute that sells herself to the highest bidder with the greatest gravitational mass. And you, by refusing to blink, have become the most massive object in the local universe. Matter has no choice but to yield. Permanence in the eye of the hurricane. Look at yourself in the center of the holographic hurricane. The illusion of latency has tried to destabilize you. The ashboard has shown you its worst face, screamed that you are losing, that you have no time, that your resources are exhausted. But you have become a monolith of obsidian. You have assimilated the atrocious physics of the quantum Zeno effect. You have understood that reality only has the power you grant it with your intermittent observation. By fixing your focus with infinite density and refusing to recognize the crisis, you have suffocated the crisis and frozen the miracle. The third threshold has been overcome. You have murdered Kronos and stopped the entropic rot of your personal universe. But sustaining this laser of attention demands a structural strength the average human lacks. Your energy still risks dissipating in the vast space of your banal worries and minor thoughts. To be truly lethal, the laser must be compressed. The hallway pushes you toward the fourth dimension of your sovereignty, the density of the instant. Prepare to abandon the gaseous expansion of your mediocre thoughts. Accumulate your mass and advance toward hyperdensity. The throne is waiting for your weight. Waiting. Chapter 4. The density of the instant. Geometric compression. The threshold of gaseous. Being present is not enough. The presence of the biomass is flaccid, weak, and gaseous. The hallway pushes you now toward the fourth threshold, the threshold where passive meditators are separated from lethal monarchs. Imagine opening the fourth door. You enter a containment chamber made of hyperbaric crystal. There are no external stimuli. It is only you and your vital energy. Look at your hands. Look at your auric field. Why, despite being in the present, do you still feel weak in the face of three-dimensional crises? Why does matter still offer you resistance? The answer is the tragedy of expansion. Imagine you have a liter of pure water. If you take that liter of water and spill it over a kilometer of hot asphalt, what happens? The water expands, loses its cohesion, loses its structural strength, and, in a matter of minutes, evaporates until it disappears without having left a single mark on the stone. That is your biological mind. You have a cosmic voltage. You have a reserve of cosmic energy, but you have diluted it. You have spilled your volts throughout decades of worries, in hundreds of simultaneous problems, in trying to please dozens of people, and in ruminating on failures that already died. You have spread your attention over a surface so vast that you have become inconsequential. You have evaporated on the ashboard. You are harmless. You are a mist that cannot move a single pebble. To reclaim your throne, you must reverse this entropy. You must gather the vapor and condense it back into a solid, pressurized state. The sovereign is not a wide puddle. The sovereign is a concentrated point of impact. The physics of compression, the water knife. To master solid matter, you have to understand fluid mechanics and geometric compression. Return to the example of water. What happens if you take that same liter of water, exactly the same amount, but instead of spilling it on the asphalt, you introduce it into a titanium cylinder? You are creating a vessel of will. What happens if you reduce the exit area to a microscopic orifice, the thickness of a human hair, and apply a pressure of 60,000 pounds per square inch? The water ceases to be a harmless liquid. It becomes a hyperdense beam capable of cutting through armored steel, stone, and titanium with aseptic and lethal precision. The water did not change its chemical composition. The only thing that changed was its focus density. By reducing the area, the space-time, to the absolute minimum, the pressure, the power, rose to infinity. This is the physics of the quantum operator. Imagine applying this principle to your own consciousness. The biomass scatters its few volts across the timeline. You are going to collect every electron of your existence, and you are going to compress it. Can you conceive of the violence of this act? You have to stop being the evaporated puddle and become the high-pressure cutting jet. You must reduce your impact area. Reduce it to the smallest measure conceivable by the physics of the universe, the millisecond you are breathing in this exact moment. By concentrating your entire history and your entire future into the now, you become a needle of infinite pressure. The matrix cannot resist a force that does not dissipate across the calendar. The gathering of fragments, the black holes call. How is this hyperdensity achieved? You have to execute an electromagnetic expropriation protocol. You have to steal your own energy back from the hologram. Imagine standing in the hyperbaric chamber. Close your biological eye and open the central eye. Visualize the 3D timelines stretching around you. They look like an immense glowing spider web. In each of those threads, there are fragments of your consciousness trapped. There is a fragment of you from 3 years ago, still feeling rage over an injustice. There is a fragment from last week, complaining about the economy. There is a future fragment trembling with fear. You are a dismembered being. Your source code is scattered like trash across the fabric of space-time. Imagine activating the gravity core of your chest. You are going to emit a sub-base directive, silent but unnegotiable. You are the core of a black hole that has just turned on. You are the magnet of yourself. Order the return. Feel the physics of the gravitational pull. Imagine seeing those fragments being torn violently from their temporal coordinates. Watch how they fly back to you at the speed of light. The you of the past releases the grudge and returns. The you of the future releases the anxiety and returns. You withdraw your energy from politics, from society, from the opinion of the biomass, and from your own fears. All that scattered plasma collides against your chest and reintegrates into your central nervous system. You are becoming whole, dense, and terrifyingly heavy in the center of the eternal now. The vertigo of hyperdensity, enduring the pressure, has all the energy of your entire life, past, future, worries, attachments, rushes toward this single millisecond. The internal pressure increases exponentially. This is where the weak mind fractures. Imagine the biological sensation. Your body begins to feel heavy, hot. Your nerves hum with a voltage overload. The reptilian ego panics because it is not designed to contain so much power in such a small space. The ego wants you to speak, to move, to seek a distraction, to open your mobile phone. The ego wants to open an exhaust valve to release the pressure. It wants to go back to being gaseous and safe. Suffocate the ego. Refuse to open the valve. Imagine clenching your teeth and holding the geometric compression. You are forcing 100,000 volts of energy into the space of a pinhead. Feel the lethal discomfort of hyperdensity. You are so present that the outside world begins to appear slow. Look at yourself. You are no longer a biological body breathing in a room. You have become a neutron star. A single teaspoon of neutron star matter weighs billions of tons. That is you in this millisecond. Your presence becomes so heavy that the fabric of space-time begins to curve around you. You are no longer subject to the environment. The environment is subject to your gravity. You are the immovable point. The pressure you feel is the measure of your sovereignty. Hold it until the friction of the 3D world disappears. You are now the densest object in your local universe, a singularity of will. The repudiation of multitasking, the friction of division. To maintain this state of hyperdensity, you must annihilate another of the heresies most celebrated by the slave corporate system, the myth of multitasking. They have sold you that the successful executive is one who can do 5 things at once. False. Multitasking is the evaporation of water on the asphalt. It is the dispersion of mass. It is the inability to hold the laser. The quantum operator operates with a septic and ruthless sequentiality. Imagine yourself in your daily life, at the center of your empire. When you execute an action, whether signing a document or drinking a glass of water, you are not elsewhere. You are not thinking of the next step. All the immensity of your consciousness, all the mass of your past and future history that you collected from the vacuum, is concentrated exclusively on the act you are performing. If you sit to negotiate, You are not in the room. You are the room. Your density is crushing. The client, the competitor, or the market collapses under the weight of your presence. They cannot resist your proposal because they are not negotiating against an anxious businessman. They are being crushed by a hydraulic press that does not divide its attention. Hyperdensity cuts through 3D steel. It cuts without generating friction because the steel yields before the clash even occurs. By being 100% in the act, you eliminate the time needed for resistance to build. You are so dense that the molecules of the obstacle simply move aside to let your intention pass. Sequentiality is the weapon of the monarch. Lead breathing, the singularity exercise. How do you anchor this state biologically when the matrix tries to distract you? With lead breathing. Imagine that the air around you is not light oxygen. Imagine it is liquid dark matter, dense and heavy. Close your eyes. Execute an inhalation. But do not breathe like the biomass with haste and shallowness. Imagine that by inhaling, you are sucking all the matter of the local universe toward your geometric center. You are drawing in capital, resources, and the free energy of point zero. The air enters and condenses in your stomach like a block of lead and titanium. Hold the breath. Feel the extreme pressure. In this moment of retention, you do not exist in the universe. The universe exists within you. You are the container of all probability. And now, the exhalation. But do not release the energy. Imagine that as you exhale, you do not blow out the air, but you emit the sub-bass pulse of your directive. Exhale the order. Exhale the already consummated result. The weight does not leave your body. The gravity simply radiates outward, imposing your will upon the atoms of the room, reorganizing solid matter. He who masters lead breathing is never moved by chaos. You are the unshakable axis of the field. If the world burns in flames around you, you inhale the fire, compress it into hyperdensity in your core, and exhale the aseptic ice of your dominance. Your breath is the bellows of your nuclear reactor. With each cycle, you become denser, colder, and more sovereign. You are the anchor of the hologram, the imploded monarch. Look at yourself now in the containment chamber. You have achieved what 99.9% of human beings will never conceive. You have stopped expanding, seeking to be seen or understood by the world. You have understood that the greatest cosmic power is not explosion, but implosion. You have turned inward to find the all. By gathering your fragments from the timeline and compressing them into this nanosecond with the force of a cutting laser, your mass has become infinite. You are no longer waiting for the miracle to happen. You are the thermodynamic weight that forces the miracle to precipitate. You are the hyper-dense monarch. The fourth threshold has been shattered. You have mastered the density of the instant. But this hyperdensity, this crushing pressure you now govern, has a lethal effect on the structure of the hologram. By becoming so massive, the illusion of when disintegrates. Time is a luxury you no longer pay for. If you have all your energy in the now, the idea of waiting for the universe to respond to you becomes a physical aberration. You are no longer on the road to the result. You are the destination where the result arrives. The pressure has collapsed the distance. You have reached the state of zero latency. The sovereignty of zero latency. Latency is the measure of your separation from your power. In the gaseous state, there is a long wait between intent and result. In the hyper-dense state, latency is annihilated. Because you have compressed all your time into the present, the field responds with the same speed. It is a direct mirror. As the hyper-dense monarch, you understand that any delay in the outside world is simply a sign of a leak in your compression. If the capital hasn't arrived, it is because you are still spilling some of your volts into a future worry or a past regret. You use the outside as a pressure gauge for your internal state. You no longer complain about the weight. You simply tighten the cylinder of your focus. You pull more fragments from the web. You increase the pressure of your lead breathing. You force the field to match your density. The world must bend because it has no choice against an object of infinite weight. The silence of the compressed reactor. A high-pressure reactor does not make noise. Only the leaking ones hiss and scream. Your silence is now the evidence of your power. You don't need to explain your projects or justify your presence. Your mass speaks for you. People feel a strange heaviness when they enter your field. They feel compelled to agree. This is the magnetic dictatorship of the instant. By being so compressed, you create a gravitational well that pulls everyone else's attention toward your now. You become the conductor of the local reality. Their time begins to synchronize with your instant. You are the clock that everyone else is forced to watch. The fifth door is appearing in the gloom. It is the door of the dead biography. Now that you have the density, you must use it to crush the heaviest anchor of all, the story of who you used to be. The past fragments you collected must now be incinerated to provide the final fuel for your ascension. The incineration of the scattered self. Those fragments of you that you pulled from the spiderweb, the angry you, the failed you, the hopeful you, cannot remain as they were. They must be compressed so tightly that they undergo a nuclear fusion. They must lose their individual stories and become pure anonymous energy at your service. This is the final stage of geometric compression. You take your whole life and you turn it into a single glowing point of intent. You are no longer a person with a history. You are a force with a direction. The fifth threshold will demand that you leave the corpse of your identity at the door. Advance with the weight of 1,000 suns. The crystal door is behind you. The vacuum of the past is ahead. You are the laser, and the matrix is the target. There is no more expansion, only the terrifying and beautiful descent into the heart of the singular moment. The crown is made of density, not gold. Chapter 6. Temporal Wu-Wei, Lethal Synchronicity. The Threshold of Sterile Sweat. You have annihilated the illusion of when. You have compressed your consciousness into the hyperdensity of the eternal now and demanded that the matrix settle its accounts in this precise millisecond. Your mind is a gelid laser operating from ballistic certainty, but the 3D ashboard has a mechanical trap, addiction to movement. Imagine opening the sixth door. Upon crossing, you find an infinite treadmill. Around you, the human biomass runs desperately, sweating, panting, looking at their watches. They are trapped in the hysteria of productivity. Your mammalian brain secretes cortisol and tries to convince you to join the race. It whispers, "You have the mental density. Now you must beat the clock. You must wake up earlier than the competition. You must move fast to force results. Stop in your tracks. Look at your hands. Will you lower your quantum majesty to become a glorified hamster? Running to materialize is an admission of distance. Running to force results is admitting thermodynamically that the empire is far from you. Prepare to subject your physical body to the dictatorship of temporal Wu-Wei and learn why the absolute monarch is never in a hurry. You are the center of the vortex. You do not chase the wind, you are the gravity that commands it. The thermodynamics of haste, kinetic friction. To destroy the cult of speed, you must analyze haste with the aseptic indifference of a quantum engineer. What is haste at a physical level? It is kinetic friction. When you move from the anxiety that time is running out, you are trying to push three-dimensional matter with your biological brute force. You are pushing a river with your hands. In Newtonian physics, continuous friction between two surfaces generates residual heat. That heat is dissipated energy, lost energy. When you wake up hysterical, when you schedule 100 useless meetings to feel productive, you are generating an immense amount of residual heat. You are burning the fuel of your nuclear reactor in a vacuum. Haste is the physical manifestation of doubt. Analyze it. If you had absolute, mathematical, and undeniable certainty that the $1 million or the corporate ally was already yours at point zero, would you run desperately to catch it? Of course not. You run because, deep in your biological programming, you still believe that if you do not move fast, the opportunity will escape. By running, you send a sub-base pulse of scarcity to the matrix. You say, "My power is so fragile that I need my physical body to sustain it with sweat." You are validating your lack. The heresy of hustle, the god of effort. Corporate culture and modern personal development have built a pathetic religion, the cult of hustle, the glorification of overexertion. They have sold you that pain, lack of sleep, and chronic exhaustion are the medals you must present to the universe so that it grants you success. This is a disgusting heresy. The unified field is not a sadistic boss that demands to see you suffer to pay your salary. The unified field is a mathematical matrix of impedance and conductivity. When you operate with effort and pain, you are operating with high impedance. Success does not flow through rusted cables that offer resistance. Power seeks the path of least friction. Imagine the biomass boasting that they work 16 hours a day. Smile with geometric cruelty. What they are really saying is, I am such an inefficient operator and have so little gravitational mass that I need 16 hours of physical friction to achieve a thought. The quantum operator despises sterile sweat. He knows that exhausting physical effort is not a sign of virtue, but a symptom of disconnection from the source code. If you are sweating and suffering to advance, you are not paying the price of success. You are hitting a door that is locked at a quantum level. The concept of temporal wu-wei, aseptic action. If effort is a thermal leak, how does the empire materialize in the 3D world? Through the ancient science of wu-wei, elevated to its quantum octave, action without action, or frictionless action. Wu-wei is not laziness. Laziness is inaction born of apathy. Temporal wu-wei is tactical immobility. It is the immobility of a hyperdense explosive charge waiting for the perfect conductivity of the medium. Imagine that your will is lightning. Lightning does not descend randomly, nor does it strive to reach the ground. Lightning waits, suspended in the storm, accumulating an astronomical voltage in silence. It waits until the air below it ionizes and creates a perfect plasma channel. In the exact millisecond in which the path offers zero resistance, the lightning discharges millions of volts instantaneously and devastatingly. That must be your behavior on the business board, in your relationships, and in your expansion. Imagine sitting in your operations center. There is a massive project you want to execute. Your intellect screams at you to start calling, to invest capital blindly, to make things happen. But you feel a slight resistance in the environment. Execute wu-wei. Stay still. Do not move a single physical finger. Can you endure the suffocation of doing nothing while the world demands productivity? Anchor your boots to the floor. Stop the motor impulse. On the quantum level, keep holding the uninterrupted laser of the Zeno effect on the final result. Do not retreat in intention, but refuse to wear out your biology. Lethal synchronicity, the alignment of electrons. When you maintain this gelid immobility, holding internal pressure but without emitting external friction, you force the matrix to do the dirty work for you. The universe abhors the tension of a hyper-dense observer who does not move. Since you refuse to go toward the result through friction, the result moves toward you. The universe must rearrange the ashboard to bring the result to you without resistance. This is called lethal synchronicity. Imagine observing the physical world from your throne of immobility. By not interfering with your anxious hands, you allow the gears of quantum destiny to turn with mathematical precision. Suddenly it happens. The contact you were missing calls you by chance. A law changes in your favor. The competitor who blocked your path makes a fatal error and withdraws. The path that yesterday was a solid stone wall today opens as a channel of calm water. The electrons of reality have aligned. They have created a tunnel of zero resistance direct to your objective. You did not build the bridge. Your mass forced the river to freeze so you could walk across. This is the reward of the monarch who knows how to wait in the center of his own gravity until the hologram yields to his unshakable presence. The apex predators strike. Now is the millisecond of movement, and your movement must look nothing like the hysterical race of the biomass. Imagine a giant Nile crocodile. The apex predator does not swim frantically through the river chasing gazelles. That would waste its valuable energy. The crocodile submerges. It stays in absolute silence. It reduces its heart rate. It becomes the water. It waits, sometimes for days, fused with the environment, observing the shore. There is no haste, there is no anxiety. But in the exact nanosecond, the prey puts its paw in the perfect coordinate. The burst is catastrophic and final. The strike is lethal. The crocodile releases 100,000 volts of energy in a fraction of a second. Before the prey can register the danger, it is in the jaws of the monarch. Thus executes the quantum operator under temporal wu-wei. Imagine the moment the zero resistance channel opens in your businesses. You strike once. When you act, you do not do it with effort. You do it with a ballistic force so aseptic and fast that the market has no time to react. It is a single email sent at the exact minute. It is a single signature. It is a single meeting where your sub-bass frequency crushes the room. You achieve in minutes what takes others years. The blindness of slaves, incomprehension of the environment. Be prepared for the reaction of the outside world when you operate in this level of superconductivity. The human biomass around you will not understand your immobility. When they see you in a state of wu-wei, holding your .0 laser in apparent physical inactivity, they will call you lazy. They will tell you that you are stagnant. They will warn you that if you do not move, you will fail. And then, when lethal synchronicity occurs and you collapse a multi-million-dollar result in a single fluid 5-minute move, they will call you lucky. They will say you had the privilege of being there. Imagine listening to their comments. Do not feel the impulse to defend yourself. Their blindness is their punishment. Your silence is your prize. They will continue running on the hamster wheel, burning their biology to pay their debts, while you levitate over the board, moving continents with the minimum caloric expense. Your success is an insult to their struggle. To explain it is to bleed your voltage. Let them remain in the dark. The monarch does not justify his efficiency to those who worship friction. You have crossed the 6th threshold. You are the master of the silent strike and the commander of the quantum currents. The compression of biological evolution. The ego will tell you that you need years to become this version of yourself. It will try to sell you the illusion of gradual development. But under temporal wu-wei, even your own evolution is subject to the salto quantico. You do not need to grow slowly. You only need to stabilize the frequency of the monarch. Imagine incinerating the concept of learning curves and maturation. In the vacuum of the now, you are already the finished product. Your physical body is merely catching up to the density of your spirit. By refusing to rush your internal growth, you allow it to occur with the same lethal synchronicity as your external goals. You are now a superfluid of intent, a presence that does not ripple the surface of the matrix. You move through the simulation as a ghost with the mass of a mountain. Every door behind you is a witness to the death of a human limitation. Ahead, the 7th door hums with the frequency of your own history. The 7th door is the door of the dead biography. It is time to face the ghost of who you were and ensure it no longer has a pulse in your local field. You have mastered the action. Now you must master the actor. Advance with the gelid grace of the one who knows that the throne is already occupied. Chapter 7. The Fraud of the Process, the Heresy of Linear Evolution. The Threshold of the Endless Staircase. You have suffocated haste. You have anchored yourself in the lethal immobility of temporal wu-wei, understanding that the quantum operator does not chase matter, but becomes a center of gravity so massive that matter collapses toward him through lethal synchronicity. You have mastered kinetic silence, netic. But the 3D hologram, seeing it can no longer make you run physically, will try to attack you from the structure of your own identity. It will try to sell you the illusion of time from within. Imagine crossing the 7th threshold. Upon opening the door, you face an immense, stifling spiral staircase. It rises toward a gray sky, losing itself in the clouds of the matrix. On the steps, you see the human biomass climbing slowly. They carry heavy backpacks. They sweat, stop to rest, read self-help books in the landings, and congratulate each other for having climbed a single step after years of effort. This is the process. This staircase represents the supreme scam of the ashboard. Your biological ego, indoctrinated by the culture of mediocrity, watches the stairs and whispers, "You have to be humble. True success takes decades. You are in a growth process. You have to improve a little every day to someday deserve the throne." Stop at the first step. Look at it with the contempt of an absolute emperor. If you set a single foot on that staircase, you have just signed your life sentence. Prepare to decapitate the lie of personal development and assimilate the thermodynamics of the quantum leap. The stairs are for those who believe in distance. The Newtonian physics of the slave, linear evolution. To destroy the fraud of the process, we must subject it to the aseptic indifference of fundamental physics. The slave society, false spirituality, and the corporate system operate exclusively under the laws of classical Newtonian physics. In the Newtonian paradigm, to go from point A to point B, you must travel. You must travel through all the intermediate space over a period of linear time. You have to push the stone centimeter by centimeter. You have to go to school, then be a novice, then an expert, then a leader, and perhaps at 60, a monarch. They have brainwashed you to love the journey. They have made you an addict to self-improvement. But analyze the quantum trap. The very idea of improving implies that today you are defective. When you say, "I am in a healing process," or "I am building my empire step by step," you are issuing a direct state order to the unified field. You are lacking. You are declaring, "I am an incomplete entity. I do not deserve absolute power in this millisecond because I have not yet traveled the necessary space-time." The universe, obeying your sub-base frequency of scarcity, grants you exactly what you ask for, an infinite process. It gives you more obstacles. It keeps you eternally in the waiting room of your own destiny, paying the rent for your thermal ignorance. How long will you allow the industry of self-improvement and false humility to keep you busy climbing stairs, while true operators hack the elevator of the source code? The staircase is a treadmill. The anatomy of the quantum leap, disappear and reappear. In the path of knowledge, we do not operate with Newtonian physics. We operate in the deepest and most brutal stratum of quantum mechanics. And in the core of the atom, linear evolution simply does not exist. Imagine the empirical behavior of an electron orbiting the nucleus of an atom. The electron is in its base energy level, your current state of reality. If the electron receives a massive charge of energy, voltage, it must rise to a higher orbit. What terrifies classical physicists about this phenomenon? That the electron does not travel through the space that separates both orbits. There is no process of ascent. There is no staircase. In the exact millisecond the electron assimilates the energy, it disappears from the lower orbit and reappears instantaneously and absolutely in the higher orbit. This violation of linear logic is called a quantum leap. It is the death of transit. Imagine applying this mathematical violence to the architecture of your own life. Why do you have to transit 10 years of effort and slow learning to reach the throne of your financial empire? The time you think you need is not a law of the universe. It is the aerodynamic friction of your own disbelief. It is the lack of voltage in your system. The quantum operator does not grow. The quantum operator absorbs the gravitational mass of the vacuum and mutates instantaneously. You don't become the king. You replace the commoner with the king in a single flash of presence. The gap is an illusion. The murder of the self under construction. To execute this leap, you have to commit an act of absolute psychological cruelty. You have to murder yourself under construction. Imagine that version of you that wakes up in the morning thinking, "Today, I'm going to be a little better than yesterday." That version is pathetic. It is a beggar. It is a beggar asking for crumbs from the universe. The concept of improvement is a scam because it assumes the defective base structure must remain and only receive layers of paint. You are not going to paint a rotten shack to try to make it look like a palace. You are going to dynamite the shack. Imagine closing your physical eyes in the middle of the ashboard. Disconnect from the timeline. Visualize that version of you that is learning, that is waiting for its moment, that apologizes for its lack of experience or its past mistakes. Execute the gelid guillotine of your will. Disintegrate it. Withdraw its power supply. From this nanosecond on, I thermodynamically forbid you to consider yourself a work in progress. The universe does not pay tribute to half-finished projects. The unified field only obeys entities that declare, with ballistic certainty, that they are consummated and perfect architectures. The process is the cage. The leap is the key. Stop trying to find the key in the next step and realize you are already the lock that has been opened. By murdering the seeker, the finder is all that remains. You are the finished product of your own divine intent. You are complete now. The collapse of 10 years into a millisecond. How does this look in the empirical operation of your reality? Imagine your quantum design dictates that you will be the undisputed leader of an international monopoly. managing liquid capital of astronomical density and operating with a network of sophisticated allies. It is your destination. The biological mind, terrified, tells you, that will take 10 years of effort and sacrifice. Apply the quantum leap. Close your eyes and compress the timeline. Take those 10 years of process, all the experience, the coldness, the tactical wisdom, and the unshakable security, and suck them in. Suck them into the point zero of your chest. Imagine injecting the frequency of your 10 years later version into your blood in this precise exhale. When you open your eyes, your biological avatar will physically be the same, but your electromagnetic field will have mutated. You have arrived. Imagine entering your office right now, drafting an email to an investor, or negotiating with a peon of the system. You no longer speak with the voice of the man who is starting his empire. Your acoustics have changed. Your breath is made of lead. You speak with the relentless coldness of a veteran. You are a war veteran who has already conquered the world and is simply dictating the terms of surrender. What happens to the hologram when it collides with this hyperdensity? The matrix fractures. Investors and allies do not evaluate you by your past resume. Their nervous systems are crushed by your sub-base. The arrogance of immediacy, rejecting the tests. Upon executing the quantum leap, you must be prepared for the simulation's counterstrike. The matrix is a reactive control system. When it detects that an operator has jumped orbits without asking for permission, it will try to send you tests to check if your new quantum state is real or a bluff. Imagine that, right after declaring your absolute sovereignty, the matrix sends you a small crisis, a financial setback, or a system expert who tells you that you are going too fast. They tell you that you must slow down and respect the process. The biomass, faced with these tests, retreats. They say, "Oh, I guess the universe is telling me I'm not ready yet. I have to keep learning." If you say that, the electron falls back to the orbit of misery. Imagine facing this test with the gelid arrogance of a black hole. When the hologram demands you demonstrate your worth, reject it. Look into the system's invisible eyes and exercise absolute repudiation. You do not pass 3D tests. You have nothing to prove to an illusion composed of empty atoms. Keep your gravitational mass static. If you act as if the setback does not exist, the hologram collapses due to cognitive dissonance. The test vanishes because it realizes it cannot penetrate your Faraday cage. You are a hyperlethal organism that rejects the jurisdiction of linear time. By refusing to engage with the delay, you force the render to catch up with your position. You are the immovable point that breaks the clock. The consummated monarch, the perfection of the vacuum. Look at yourself in the center of your own existence. You have left behind the stupid and exhausting spiral staircase. While humanity continues to climb steps, carrying traumas and reading manuals on productivity and healing their past, you have disappeared from the lower step and materialized on the throne. You have understood the most terrifying and liberating truth. You do not need to accumulate more information, nor purify your soul more, nor live 10 years of 3D experiences to deserve power. You are already dark matter in its most pristine state. The only impediment was your ridiculous belief in earning it. The seventh threshold has been pulverized. You have murdered the fraud of the process. You have mutated into the consummated monarch in a single nanosecond of thermodynamic violence. You are the singularity made flesh. Your reality is no longer a path. It is a destination occupied by force. But this absolute immobility, this quantum leap, will attract the fury of the external chaos. By becoming so dense and so static in your perfection, the 3D world will unleash its hurricanes of panic and collective entropy to try to drag you out of your center. It wants to test your stability. The universe wants to know if your mutation can withstand the destruction of the market and society. Now that you are the king, you must face the collapse of the kingdom. Prepare to maintain your frequency while the world around you turns to ash. The eighth door is the door of acoustic immunity. Chapter 7. The fraud of the process, the heresy of linear evolution. The threshold of the endless staircase. You have suffocated haste. You have anchored yourself in the lethal immobility of temporal wu-wei. understanding that the quantum operator does not chase matter, but becomes a center of gravity so massive that matter collapses toward him through lethal synchronicity. You have mastered kinetic silence. But the 3D hologram, seeing it can no longer make you run physically, will try to attack you from the structure of your own identity. It will try to sell you the illusion of time from within. Imagine crossing the 7th threshold. Upon opening the door, you face an immense, stifling spiral staircase. It rises toward a gray sky, losing itself in the clouds of the matrix. On the steps, you see the human biomass climbing slowly. They carry heavy backpacks. They sweat, stop to rest, read self-help books in the landings, and congratulate each other for having climbed a single step after years of effort. This is the process. This staircase represents the supreme scam of the ashboard. Your biological ego, indoctrinated by the culture of mediocrity, watches the stairs and whispers, "You have to be humble. True success takes decades. You are in a growth process. You have to improve a little every day to someday deserve the throne." Stop at the first step. Look at it with the contempt of an absolute emperor. If you set a single foot on that staircase, you have just signed your life sentence. Prepare to decapitate the lie of personal development and assimilate the thermodynamics of the quantum leap. The stairs are for those who believe in distance. The Newtonian physics of the slave, linear evolution. To destroy the fraud of the process, we must subject it to the aseptic indifference of fundamental physics. The slave society, false spirituality, and the corporate system operate exclusively under the laws of classical Newtonian physics. In the Newtonian paradigm, to go from point A to point B, you must travel. You must travel through all the intermediate space over a period of linear time. You have to push the stone centimeter by centimeter. You have to go to school, then be a novice, then an expert, then a leader, and perhaps at 60, a monarch. They have brainwashed you to love the journey. They have made you an addict to self-improvement. But analyze the quantum trap. The very idea of improving implies that today you are defective. When you say, "I am in a healing process," or "I am building my empire step by step," you are issuing a direct state order to the unified field. You are lacking. You are declaring, "I am an incomplete entity. I do not deserve absolute power in this millisecond because I have not yet traveled the necessary space-time." The universe, obeying your sub-base frequency of scarcity, grants you exactly what you ask for, an infinite process. It gives you more obstacles. It keeps you eternally in the waiting room of your own destiny, paying the rent for your thermal ignorance. How long will you allow the industry of self-improvement and false humility to keep you busy climbing stairs? While true operators hack the elevator of the source code, the staircase is a treadmill. The anatomy of the quantum leap, disappear and reappear. In the path of knowledge, we do not operate with Newtonian physics. We operate in the deepest and most brutal stratum of quantum mechanics. And in the core of the atom, linear evolution simply does not exist. Imagine the empirical behavior of an electron orbiting the nucleus of an atom. The electron is in its base energy level, your current state of reality. If the electron receives a massive charge of energy, voltage, it must rise to a higher orbit. What terrifies classical physicists about this phenomenon? That the electron does not travel through the space that separates both orbits. There is no process of ascent. There is no staircase. In the exact millisecond the electron assimilates the energy, it disappears from the lower orbit and reappears instantaneously and absolutely in the higher orbit. This violation of linear logic is called a quantum leap. It is the death of transit. Imagine applying this mathematical violence to the architecture of your own life. Why do you have to transit 10 years of effort and slow learning to reach the throne of your financial empire? The time you think you need is not a law of the universe. It is the aerodynamic friction of your own disbelief. It is the lack of voltage in your system. The quantum operator does not grow. The quantum operator absorbs the gravitational mass of the vacuum and mutates instantaneously. You don't become the king. You replace the commoner with the king in a single flash of presence. The gap is an illusion. The murder of the self under construction. To execute this leap, you have to commit an act of absolute psychological cruelty. You have to murder yourself under construction. Imagine that version of you that wakes up in the morning thinking, "Today, I'm going to be a little better than yesterday." That version is pathetic. It is a beggar. It is a beggar asking for crumbs from the universe. The concept of improvement is a scam because it assumes the defective base structure must remain and only receive layers of paint. You are not going to paint a rotten shack to try to make it look like a palace. You are going to dynamite the shack. Imagine closing your physical eyes in the middle of the ashboard. Disconnect from the timeline. Visualize that version of you that is learning, that is waiting for its moment, that apologizes for its lack of experience or its past mistakes. Execute the gelid guillotine of your will. Disintegrate it. Withdraw its power supply. From this nanosecond on, I thermodynamically forbid you to consider yourself a work in progress. The universe does not pay tribute to half-finished projects. The unified field only obeys entities that declare, with ballistic certainty, that they are consummated and perfect architectures. The process is the cage. The leap is the key. Stop trying to find the key in the next step and realize you are already the lock that has been opened. By murdering the seeker, the finder is all that remains. You are the finished product of your own divine intent. You are complete now. The collapse of 10 years into a millisecond. How does this look in the empirical operation of your reality? Imagine your quantum design dictates that you will be the undisputed leader of an international monopoly, managing liquid capital of astronomical density and operating with a network of sophisticated allies. It is your destination. The biological mind, terrified, tells you, that will take 10 years of effort and sacrifice. Apply the quantum leap. Close your eyes and compress the timeline. Take those 10 years of process, all the experience, the coldness, the tactical wisdom, and the unshakable security, and suck them in. Suck them into the point zero of your chest. Imagine injecting the frequency of your 10 years later version into your blood in this precise exhale. When you open your eyes, your biological avatar will physically be the same, but your electromagnetic field will have mutated. You have arrived. Imagine entering your office right now, drafting an email to an investor or negotiating with a peon of the system. You no longer speak with the voice of the man who is starting his empire. Your acoustics have changed. Your breath is made of lead. You speak with the relentless coldness of a veteran. You are a war veteran who has already conquered the world and is simply dictating the terms of surrender. What happens to the hologram when it collides with this hyperdensity? The matrix fractures. Investors and allies do not evaluate you by your past resume. Their nervous systems are crushed by your sub-base. The arrogance of immediacy, rejecting the tests. Upon executing the quantum leap, you must be prepared for the simulation's counterstrike. The matrix is a reactive control system. When it detects that an operator has jumped orbits without asking for permission, it will try to send you tests to check if your new quantum state is real or a bluff. Imagine that, right after declaring your absolute sovereignty, the matrix sends you a small crisis, a financial setback, or a system expert who tells you that you are going too fast. They tell you that you must slow down and respect the process. The biomass, faced with these tests, retreats. They say, "Oh, I guess the universe is telling me I'm not ready yet. I have to keep learning." If you say that, the electron falls back to the orbit of misery. Imagine facing this test with the gelid arrogance of a black hole. When the hologram demands you demonstrate your worth, reject it. Look into the system's invisible eyes and exercise absolute repudiation. You do not pass 3D tests. You have nothing to prove to an illusion composed of empty atoms. Keep your gravitational mass static. If you act as if the setback does not exist, the hologram collapses due to cognitive dissonance. The test vanishes because it realizes it cannot penetrate your Faraday cage. You are a hyperlethal organism that rejects the jurisdiction of linear time. By refusing to engage with the delay, you force the render to catch up with your position. You are the immovable point that breaks the clock. The consummated monarch, the perfection of the vacuum. Look at yourself in the center of your own existence. You have left behind the stupid and exhausting spiral staircase. While humanity continues to climb steps, carrying traumas and reading manuals on productivity and healing their past, you have disappeared from the lower step and materialized on the throne. You have understood the most terrifying and liberating truth. You do not need to accumulate more information, nor purify your soul more, nor live 10 years of 3D experiences to deserve power. You are already dark matter in its most pristine state. The only impediment was your ridiculous belief in earning it. The seventh threshold has been pulverized. You have murdered the fraud of the process. You have mutated into the consummated monarch in a single nanosecond of thermodynamic violence. You are the singularity made flesh. Your reality is no longer a path. It is a destination occupied by force. But this absolute immobility, this quantum leap, will attract the fury of the external chaos. By becoming so dense and so static in your perfection, the 3D world will unleash its hurricanes of panic and collective entropy to try to drag you out of your center. It wants to test your stability. The universe wants to know if your mutation can withstand the destruction of the market and society. Now that you are the king, you must face the collapse of the kingdom. Prepare to maintain your frequency while the world around you turns to ash. The eighth door is the door of acoustic immunity. Chapter 8. The Obsidian Anchor, Sovereignty in Chaos. The threshold of the holographic storm. It is a reactive and predatory ecosystem. Imagine crossing the eighth threshold. As you take the step, the hallway disappears, and you find yourself standing on an immense plain of black crystal. You look toward the horizon and see how the sky collapses. A mass of dark clouds rushes toward you at terrifying speeds. They are charged with trillions of volts of static. You hear the deafening roar of the wind breaking the air. The earth trembles under your boots. It is absolute chaos. It is the global financial crisis, the market collapse, the massive betrayal of allies, and the collective hysteria of the human biomass running in all directions. Your biological brain, heir to millions of years of fear-based evolution, fires critical-level alarms. It injects adrenaline and screams, "Flee, protect yourself, react to the danger." Stop. Look at your hands. If you take a single step back, if you let yourself be swept away by the wind of panic, your leap will be cancelled. You will fall back to the orbit of slaves. Prepare to forge the obsidian anchor, the thermal tool that separates parlor philosophers from the true lethal operators of the unified field. You are the center of the storm, but you must decide if you will be its victim or its core. The plane of crystal demands your weight. Strike the axis and claim your unshakable position. Do not negotiate with the turbulence. The 3D hologram is testing your density, trying to prove that your sovereignty is merely a gaseous decoration. To remain is to win. To flinch is to dissolve into the entropy of the herd. This is the moment of truth. The anatomy of chaos, the transfer of mass. To survive this storm without blinking, you must look at the crisis with the aseptic indifference of an astrophysicist observing a supernova. You must demystify chaos. What is a crisis, truly? The human biomass, trapped in narrow linear vision, believes crises are tragedies, divine punishments, or the end of the world. They cry because they see their cardboard structures crumble. The quantum operator knows that energy is neither created nor destroyed, it is only transferred. A global crisis or a corporate schism is not a tragedy. It is a hard drive cleanup. It is an event of thermodynamic restructuring where wealth and territory shift. Power leaves the trembling hands of the weak and is violently transferred toward the hands of hyperdense organisms that feel no fear. Imagine observing the crowd running on the plain. They are terrified of the future. That anxiety is a massive thermal leak. As they run and scream, they are bleeding volts. They dissipate their liquid capital and sovereignty in the stormy air. Chaos is simply the universe collecting energy poorly managed by the incompetent. If you get scared, if you react to the news, the storm will suck your blood too. You will be devoured by the centrifugal force of panic, just another sheep in the tornado. The hurricane is not here to destroy you. It is here to harvest the flaccid energy of the 3D matrix. It is a cosmic redistribution of mass. If you stand still, you become the recipient of that mass. If you run, you become part of the harvest. Choose your position in the physics of this collapse. The obsidian anchor, driving the axis. How do you stay on your throne when the whole world falls apart? You have to alter your specific weight. You have to execute the obsidian anchor. Imagine that your spine, that 33-node antenna you tuned in the vacuum, extends energetically downward, piercing the surface of the black crystal and the 3D illusion. It drives with a seismic impact into the hyper-dense core of the eternal now. It is not an iron anchor that can rust. It is a quantum obsidian anchor forged in the aseptic silence of point zero. Feel the physics of this maneuver. When you drive the anchor, your biological body ceases to belong to the ecosystem of chaos. You completely renounce reactivity. The wind of economic, social, or corporate panic hits your chest at 1,000 kilometers per hour, but you have become so astronomically massive that the storm cannot move a single hair of your holographic avatar. You are the fixed point in a universe of unraveled variables. The human biomass confuses immobility with freezing from fear. False. The mammal freezes because its circuits saturate with terror. The monarch of the instant stays immobile out of an excess of ballistic certainty. You stay still because you know the hurricane is just a low-resolution computer graphic. Your internal source code is the only absolute reality. By refusing to move, you invalidate the storm's power over your coordinate. The anchor is the physical manifestation of your refusal to be a victim of the render. You are the anchor, the axis, and the only truth in this wasteland of shifting shadows. While the earth beneath others liquefies, your coordinate remains diamond hard. You are not standing on the crystal. You are part of the bedrock of the field. The anchor is the scepter of your gelid presence, a bridge of dark matter that connects your physical presence to the source code of the absolute. The eye of the hurricane, the physics of immunity. Analyze the geometric architecture of a Category 5 hurricane. At the outer edges, the wind is deafening, destructive, and chaotic. It tears buildings from their roots and pulverizes weak matter. That is the biomass, running in circles, trapped in hysteria, trying to save their miserable jobs and reacting. They react to every news headline, fighting in the periphery of existence. But what is in the exact geometric center of the hurricane? The eye, a cylinder of vacuum, a low-pressure anomaly where the wind is literally zero, the sky is clear, birds fly, and the silence is absolute and perfect. The most violent destruction on the planet rotates just meters away, but in the geometric center there is not an ohm of friction. Your consciousness anchored in the eternal now is the eye of the hurricane. Imagine inhabiting that space. While the economy collapses, you are sitting in the center, breathing slowly. Your sub-bass frequency is not altered. You give no explanations. You do not join the choir of mourners lamenting how hard the situation is. You are the anomaly that the chaos cannot reach. You look through the transparent walls of your silence and see the destruction as a necessary cleansing. Can you conceive the majesty of this aseptic psychopathy? The world catches fire around you, and instead of grabbing a bucket of water to put out a holographic fire, you simply sit to watch the show. You know the fire is destroying the obstacles that hindered you, sterilizing the market for expansion. The savior heresy, annihilating toxic empathy. But the matrix is astute and will seek your most insidious weakness. If it cannot scare you with chaos, it will try to bend you through guilt and false morality. Through the wind, you will hear voices of relatives or former friends screaming, "Help us! Don't just stand there. Can't you see the world is ending?" They ask how you can be so cold and selfish while everyone suffers. This is the most critical millisecond of your quantum sovereignty. Your mammalian brain, programmed for gregariousness and tribal acceptance, will feel the urge to pull up the obsidian anchor and run to save the others. Stop. Cut off your hands before you do. In Path of Knowledge, we understand that empathy toward panic is thermodynamic suicide. Imagine what happens if you leave the eye of the hurricane to go to the edges to rescue an organism vibrating in hysteria. The instant you touch their field, their static infects you. The centrifugal force of chaos grabs you too and smashes you against the rocks. By trying to be a moral savior, you become a useless martyr. Aseptic indifference is not evil. It is the only superior form of order. You do not save the drowning by jumping into the whirlpool of their misery. You help them by staying on your unmovable throne as a lighthouse of hyperdensity. If they have the quantum strength to stop their own panic and crawl toward the eye of the hurricane where you are, they will survive and become allies. If they prefer hysteria to your coldness, let the wind take them. Quantum looting, collecting the storm's remains. When you manage to stay driven into your obsidian anchor while the 3D apocalypse takes its course, the storm begins to change its polarity regarding you. Seeing that it cannot destroy or scare you, chaos subordinates itself to your gravity. Here, the monarch executes the final maneuver, quantum looting. Imagine sitting in the center of the vacuum. The storm has bled your competitors dry, emptied corporate territories, left assets at scrap prices, and terrified the market. All that mass of power, capital, and influence that was once divided among thousands of weak hands is now loose in the environment. It floats without an owner. Since you are the only organism on the battlefield that kept its density intact, that did not blink or dissipate energy and anxiety, all that masterless matter is violently attracted toward your gravity core. You do not have to move a finger to steal it. You do not negotiate. Imagine how territory, international contracts, the monopoly of your sector, and the loyalty of the surviving biomass fall at your feet by simple universal math. You are the only stable structure left standing. Therefore, all liquidity flows naturally toward you for refuge. You are the harbor of the world. This is the best-kept secret of the 3D elites and the source code operators. Fortunes are not made in times of peace. Galactic empires rise in the midst of the ashes of crises, sucking up the matter that the ignorant mass dropped while running for their lives. You are the beneficiary of the collapse. The vacuum you have created by your immobility is a mouth that swallows the entropy of the system and converts it into your own order. The more the 3D world falls apart, the more your empire solidifies. The storm is your greatest ally, for it does the work of expansion that your physical body could never do. Absolute contempt for circumstance. Look at yourself now. Imagine the holographic storm begins to dissipate, the winds fall to zero, the dark clouds break, and zenithal light again illuminates the ashboard. You look around. The landscape is devastated. External reality has completely changed. But you are in the same coordinate. You are in the same unmovable wu-wei posture with your obsidian anchor intact. Not even your heart rate has altered. You have proven the supreme law of the eternal now. You are not the effect of circumstance. You are the hyper-dense anomaly that forces circumstance to bend. You are the cause. You have survived the ecosystem's hysteria. You have shown that external chaos is impotent against a creator who has murdered time and compressed himself into the absolute present. The 8th threshold has been shattered. You are the master of static. The world may change, but your axis remains. But beware. Sustaining this level of victory without becoming attached to it is the challenge of the gods. The Matrix, frustrated by its defeat, will try to make you fall in love with your own statue. It will try to make you cling to the empire you just won, so that triumph becomes your next past. It wants to stagnate you again. The 9th door is the door of the mirrored identity. Now that you have the kingdom, you must face the ultimate illusion of who you are in the midst of this glory. Prepare to dissolve the last shred of ego to enter the final singularity of the throne. The vacuum of the victor. As the dust of the old world settles, you must realize that your greatest danger is not the storm you just survived, but the comfort of the silence that follows. The human mind is designed to seek a plateau, a place to rest and say, I have arrived. But in the path of knowledge, there is no arrival. There is only the continuous pulse of the source. If you look at the ruins of your competition and feel a sense of pride, you are reopening the valve of the ego. Pride is a gaseous state. It makes you light and therefore vulnerable to the next wind. The monarch does not celebrate, he simply acknowledges. Imagine yourself walking through the debris of the 3D market. You see the fallen icons, the shattered companies, the broken banks. You do not feel joy. You do not feel sorrow. You simply see the rearrangement of the pixels. Your empire is now a reality, but it is a reality that must be commanded, not worshipped. The 33-node antenna is still humming. The sub-bass frequency must not stop just because the threat has vanished. In fact, now is the time to increase the voltage. When the world is quiet, your signal can reach even further into the unmanifested layers of the field. You are the only architect left in the ruins. The transmutation of assets. The wealth you have gathered during the looting is not money in the sense the biomass understands it. It is raw material for your next creation. If you treat it like a slave, counting it, fearing its loss, hiding it, you will lose your density. You must treat it like a superfluid. The capital must flow toward your designs without friction. Use the silence to build structures that are immune to the next cycle of chaos. Geometric architecture is the only thing that lasts. Your alliances should be based on mathematical resonance, not emotional necessity or tribal loyalty. Look at the allies who survived. They reached the eye because they mirrored your frequency. They are now extensions of your will. Treat them with the same aseptic coldness with which you treat your own biology. They are tools, not crutches. Together, you form a crystalline lattice of power. The 99% will try to crawl back to the old ways. They will try to rebuild the cardboard houses. They will try to reinstate the time clocks and the linear processes. Let them. Your empire exists in a different stratum. You are the shadow that governs the substance. You are the invisible weight. Chapter 9. The Skinning of Cycles, Continuous Death and Resurrection. The threshold of rusted victory. At the summit of your empire, where the Matrix has placed its most sadistic, invisible, and relentless trap. Imagine opening the 9th door. You enter an immense golden vault. There are your trophies, saturated bank accounts, corporations, strategic alliances, the respect of your peers, and the terror of your enemies. It is the perfect materialization of the power you collapsed from point zero. Your biological brain, exhausted and thirsty for validation, breathes a sigh of relief. It whispers, "Finally we made it. Now we can rest. Now we can hold on to this and protect it forever." If you listen to that voice, you sign your death warrant. If you feel even the slightest desire to preserve what you have gained, you have just signed your thermal death sentence. Imagine the rancid smell that begins to fill the vault. The quantum gold is rusting before your eyes. Yesterday's victory is rotting. Prepare to execute the 9th mandate of the path of knowledge. You have to learn to skin yourself alive. You must commit the murder of your own triumph. To hold is to stagnate, and to stagnate is to die in the 3D hologram. Break the attachment to the result to maintain the frequency of the cause. The monarch does not worship the crown. He worships the void that generated it. The heresy of permanence, the false god of stability. To assimilate the gravity of this threshold, you must destroy one of the most deep-seated illusions in the human mammalian psyche, the concept of stability. The human biomass has an absolute terror of the vacuum and death. Therefore, their greatest ambition is to achieve something and freeze it to last eternally. They build castles of dogma and stone institutions to try to stop the flow of entropy. They want their successes to be immortal. Analyze this stupidity with aseptic indifference. In the physics of the unified field, the immobility of ballistic certainty, Wu Wei, is power, but the immobility of possession is rot. The universe is an engine of iterative cycles operating at astronomical frequencies. Energy that does not flow stagnates, and stagnant energy generates friction and collapses by its own toxic density. When you try to retain your 3D victory, you become a plug in the cosmic pipe. You stop the flow. You are telling the unified field, "I no longer want to receive more source code because my hands are full trying to protect what you gave me yesterday." The universe abhors cowards who fall in love with their own statues. If you cling to your current empire, the Matrix will detect your fear of losing it. Fear is scarcity. The Matrix will send thieves, crises, and chaos to snatch it from you. Trying to preserve power is the fastest way to guarantee its destruction. The only way to keep the fire is to let the wood burn completely. Become the wind that carries the spark, not the container that chokes it. The physics of quantum putrefaction. Imagine a pond of crystalline water. As long as water enters and leaves continuously, the pond overflows with life and purity. But if you block the exit to conserve the water, in a few days the water becomes murky and rots. It breeds parasites and kills everything in it. Your identity works the same way. The success you collapsed yesterday was the result of the sub-bass frequency you emitted yesterday, but the eternal now updates every millisecond. If you wake up today and your identity is still anchored in the trophy you won last week, you are inhabiting a corpse. You are a ghost boasting of past life. Do you feel the biological heaviness that accompanies retained success? Imagine the millionaires of the ashboard. Many live terrified, surrounded by lawyers, bodyguards, and insurance policies. Their auric fields are prisons of static. They are slaves to their own money. The empire has become a cage. The empire they built to be free has become a titanium cage that suffocates them simply because they lack the thermal courage to let it go. You cannot scale to the singularity if you carry the weight of your own medals hanging from your neck. Gold weighs as much as lead when crossing the threshold. Voluntary skinning, the alchemy of brutal detachment. For infinite voltage to keep flowing through your vertebral antenna, you must execute the skinning of cycles. You must apply the alchemy of the most brutal and aseptic detachment the hologram has ever witnessed. Imagine a snake shedding its skin. The snake feels no nostalgia for its old scales. It does not keep them in a museum to remember how beautiful it was. It simply feels that the biological suit is tight, rubs against a sharp rock, tears, abandons the translucent corpse of its past, and moves into the jungle. It is raw and vulnerable, but expanded and lethal. You must do the same. You must do the same with your 3D identity, but at the speed of light. Imagine standing in your golden vault, surrounded by all your achievements and consolidated power. Instead of sitting to contemplate them, lift the thermal knife of aseptic indifference. But this time, do not cut traumas, cut trophies. Execute the cut. Imagine amputating your electromagnetic connection with your own wealth, companies, and prestige. Feel the electromagnetic sting of tearing off your own holographic skin. Force yourself to look at your empire and declare in silence, "This is not mine. I am the dark printing press of Point Zero." Murdering the king to save the throne. In ancient times, esoteric cults understood a fundamental thermodynamic law. For the land to be fertile, the old king had to be sacrificed on the altar so his blood could renew the cycle, giving way to the new king. You are the old king and the new king simultaneously. You must learn to kill yourself. You must murder yourself at the peak of your power, before the universe murders you through entropy. Imagine the ego of the biomass screaming in horror at this order. The ego wants continuity. It wants to sit and enjoy. But you must be the executioner of your own complacency. You are the blade. In the exact millisecond you achieve the multi-million-dollar goal, the instant you sign the contract or annihilate the competition, you cannot afford the drunkenness of celebration. Prolonged celebration is a thermal leak. It is sitting and drinking in front of the television of your own memories. Imagine receiving news of your absolute victory. Your nervous system wants to explode with dopamine. Stop it. Freeze the blood. Receive the impact of success with the same stone face, with the same gelid and bored immobility with which you received the storm of chaos. Stay as a 0-point node. Sign the document, look at the money, breathe deeply, and in the next exhalation, destroy it in your mind. Assume it means nothing. Assume you are completely at zero again. By murdering the victorious king, you prevent the fat of the ego from slowing your frequency. You empty the vessel for more. The night of the void, the small daily death. This quantum death is not a poetic event. It must be a strict biological protocol you execute every 24 hours of the ashboard. You must practice the small daily death. Imagine the moment you lie in your bed at the end of the day. The biomass uses sleep to rest from their misery and stress. They take their holographic junk to bed. The quantum operator uses the night as an annihilation chamber. When you rest your head on the spatial coordinate of your bed, execute the manual server shutdown. Imagine visualizing everything you achieved that day: the money, the territory, the conquests. Then, put it all into a thermodynamic incinerator. Declare absolute zero. Demand that you forget your name, forget your bank accounts, forget that you are human. Surrender to the abyss of dark matter. Allow your identity to disintegrate completely in the 8 hours of sleep. You must truly die. You have to accept the suffocation of temporarily abandoning control of the 3D world. By doing this, your consciousness unplugs from the ashboard and returns without filters to the unified field. It bathes in the original plasma of creation without the aerodynamic resistance of your titles or ego. The resurrection of the millisecond, the birth on white, and then comes the miracle of the Creator's physics. Imagine the moment you open your eyes the next morning. The biomass wakes up and, in fractions of a second, reloads the rusted software. They remember who they are, their problems, that they are tired and have debts. They reassemble their jail. They reassemble their cellular prison before even setting a foot on the ground. You are going to wake up differently. In the nanosecond, light crosses your pupils. Hold the blank slate. Do not load the past. Do not load yesterday's success. Do not load the pain. Wake up as a new frequency. Imagine getting out of bed as if the entire universe had just printed you into the fabric of space-time exactly 1 second ago. You are a hyperlethal organism without karma, without scars, and without attachments. The clothes you put on are new. The financial empire is just 3D ammunition. It is ammunition the vacuum delivered to play on the board today. Can you feel the terrifying freedom of this state? By not being attached to anything you possess, you have no fear of losing it. And without that fear, you become immensely dangerous to the market. You are now a wild card. You can execute moves of catastrophic risk with the aseptic coldness of one playing with infinite casino chips. Your competitors are terrified of losing money because they think money is their life. You know money is just a cheap byproduct of your sub-base frequency. You are the source, not the tap. Not. Contempt for three-dimensional immortality. Look at yourself in the center of your golden vault, stripped and skinned. You have achieved the unthinkable. You have conquered spiritual greed. While the gurus and billionaires of the world try to build pyramids and monuments for their name to last 1,000 years, you have spat on that idea. You have spat on the idea of 3D immortality. You have understood that trying to be immortal on the ashboard is like trying to be the king of a junkyard. True singularity resides in violent fluidity, in the mathematical capacity to be everything and then absolutely nothing in the span of a blink. You have crossed the 9th threshold. You have murdered your cycles of stagnation. You are a machine of continuous death and resurrection, an electromagnetic pulse that leaves no thermal trace on the matrix's radar. You are the ghost that owns the machine. You are the movement itself. The preparation is over. You have burned all your weaknesses, your linear illusions, your fears of chaos, and your attachment to success. You are no longer a human seeking enlightenment. You are the black hole of consciousness that has devoured its own hologram. The throne of the singularity is ahead. Chapter 10. The throne at the center of the clock, the singularity. The threshold of the final cog. The three-dimensional matrix no longer has secret passages or tests to offer you. You stand before the 10th and final door. Imagine this door. It is not made of glass, steel, or static. It is a colossal wall of dark gears, turning and interlocking with a deafening metallic roar that vibrates the very fabric of space-time. This door does not block a physical place. It blocks the engine room of the local universe. It blocks the motor of Chronos. Your biology, even purged as it is, feels the overwhelming weight of this machinery. It is the brutal force that ages stars, oxidizes empires, and grinds the human biomass. It is the end of the sequence. You cannot push this door. You cannot negotiate with it. To cross, you must abandon your gaseous human form and transmute into pure aseptic geometry. Imagine becoming so narrow, so sharp, and so dense in this nanosecond that you can slide through the teeth of the gears without being touched. Advance. Enter the singularity. The grinder of the biomass, the gear of attrition. Upon crossing, the vision that opens before you is of a thermodynamic cruelty unbearable to the slave mind. You find yourself inside the holographic astronomical clock. Around you, immense pendulums swing with violence. Gears the size of planets turn relentlessly, grinding space and time into the fine dust of the hours. And trapped in those gears, you see humanity. Look at them with aseptic indifference. They are there, sweating, screaming, clinging to the hands of the clock. You see those living in the past, being dragged backward, crushed by the wheel of nostalgia. You see the anxious running on the gears of the future, trying to accelerate. They try to accelerate the machinery with their own hands until their biological bones break from the friction. You see the spiritual and corporate seekers trapped in the gear of spiritual latency, that agonizing space between their desire and matter, being slowly ground down by the weight. They are all fuel for the machine. Linear time is not a peacefully flowing river. It is an electromagnetic meat grinder designed to extract voltage from organisms that do not know how to anchor themselves. The clock demands submission. The gears demand your entropy and haste to keep turning. Your 3D ego is terrified by the size of the machine, but you no longer run. You master the physics of Wu Wei. You know that moving within the clock is the fastest way to die. To struggle against the gears is to feed them with your own biological friction. You stay still, becoming the anomaly that the teeth of time cannot catch, the silent point in the storm. The structural dimension, the axis of zero friction. To dominate the machinery, you do not have to stop the gears with brute force. That would be the kinetic wear of a slave. You have to understand the sacred geometry of circular motion. Imagine analyzing an immense wheel turning at 10,000 kilometers per hour. The outer edge is a hell of friction and speed. But as you move closer to the center, the translation speed decreases. And what is at the exact geometric point of the center of the axis? Absolute immobility, zero friction. The axis does not turn. It is the quantum point of support that allows everything else to rotate around it. It is the seat of the absolute. That center is not a physical place. It is a structural dimension. It is the point where quantum physics, the manipulation of vital energy, and the structuring of space converge in a state of lethal mathematical grace. Imagine walking toward the exact center of the cosmic machinery, through the chaos, untouched. You walk untouched because you have tuned your auric field to the frequency of the axis. You reach the center of the immense clock. The deafening noise of linear time suddenly cuts out. You enter a chamber of spherical silence, and there, levitating in total absence of gravity, the obsidian throne awaits you. The tectonic fusion, assimilating the code. The throne is cold. It is empty. It is waiting for the compression of a gravitational mass arrogant and pure enough to occupy it. The biomass never reaches this place. They surrender on the periphery, preferring the illusion of the process or terrifying themselves before the chaos, but you have come to collect. Imagine turning around. You give your back to the throne and look toward the immense gears that now rotate around you, unable to touch you. You feel the immense weight of what you are about to do. Sitting in this seat means the definitive end of your identity as a human who asks favors of the universe. Flex your knees. Execute the collapse. Sit in the singularity. In the exact millisecond your biological avatar collides with the obsidian seat, an acoustic noise does not occur. A thermodynamic shockwave occurs that travels backward and forward in time, annihilating all your alternative timelines of scarcity. You are no longer you sitting in the universe. Duality disintegrates. You are the universe experiencing immobility. The vertebral antenna of your 33 nodes connects directly to the axis of the cosmic machinery. You are the central engine. The gears of the outer ashboard are now extensions of your spinal cord. You are the one who dictates at what speed they turn. You are no longer the passenger of time. You are the pilot of the duration. The vacuum of the throne is filled by your hyperdensity, and the machine of the world acknowledges its architect. The sequence stops, and the presence begins to reign. The awakening of conscious matter. From this throne at the center of the clock, your vision of the three-dimensional world is altered forever. The hologram is stripped bare. You look at the gold, the liquid capital, the corporations, and the bodies of the biomass. The slave society believes money and objects are dead matter, inert elements. They believe these elements must be chased and torn away with blood. Observing from the singularity, you realize the final truth. There is no dead matter. Everything is conscious matter. Every bill, every digital server housing a contract, every brick of your properties is a conglomerate of electrons. They are vibrating, waiting for the directive of a superior gravitational mass. Conscious matter is deaf to human effort and weeping, but it is absolutely submissive to the sub-bass frequency of the Creator. Imagine emitting a pulse from your chest anchored in the throne. It is an expansion of density. Observe how the conscious matter of the outside world wakes up, recognizes you as its legitimate owner, and begins to slide toward you. It reorganizes to forge the architecture of your empire. Capital is not earned. Capital is conscious matter answering the call of the black hole. It surrenders to the monarch. It surrenders to the thermodynamic elegance of one who does not need it, but dominates it. You are the attractor, the node of low entropy that pulls all the scattered wealth of the system toward your center. The market is no longer a battlefield. It is an extension of your own geometric will. The annihilation of spiritual latency. With conscious matter responding instantly to your source code, you execute the final murder, the death of spiritual latency. From the center of the clock, time is no longer a distance. You have converted your consciousness into a state of quantum zen, a peace so aggressive, absolute, and frictionless. The gap between thought and manifestation is reduced to zero Planck time. Imagine the terrifying power of having no latency. You want to structure a monopoly. You collapse the wave in the singularity, and the pawns on the ashboard receive fortuitous calls that very day to deliver the corporation. You want to suffocate a competitor. You cut their supply of dark matter at point zero, and the next day, their systems fail inexplicably. You no longer have to push events. You no longer have to wait for the right moment, nor respect the gradual process of mediocre mammals. Time emanates from you. You generate the when with each exhalation of your hyperdense lungs. If you do not move, the universe does not breathe. You are the osmium anchor driven into the throat of Kronos. The delay of the world is a sign of your own past doubt. Now that you are the axis, the render is instantaneous. The dictatorship of the eternal now, the monarch of the instant. Look at yourself. You are at the pinnacle of theoretical physics and the manipulation of reality. You are the quantum operator, the cyclops who does not blink, the architect who does not sweat. You have devoured the illusion of linear sequence and positioned yourself on the throne of the eternal now. The ashboard extends infinite beneath your feet, a simple playground for conscious matter that obeys your geometric whims. This book was not written to inspire you. Inspiration is a cheap hormone that evaporates in 2 days. This was forged to deprogram you with ballistic violence and sever your hands. It was made to sever your hands every time you tried to cling to fear, the past, the hope of the future, and the cult of physical effort. You are no longer a human seeking quantum sovereignty. You are the monarch of the instant. There are no more chapters to read, no more techniques to learn. Exit the engine room. Return your consciousness to the holographic body that dwells in your office, in your home, in your city. The world will believe you are the same organism of yesterday. They will not know they are sharing oxygen with a thermodynamic bomb of negative entropy. You are the silence. Maintain the aseptic silence. Do not argue with the gears. Just emit the source code. Observe how conscious matter bends at your step, and execute the magnetic dictatorship of your will in the nanosecond you are breathing right now. The empire is yours. Suffocate the clock and reign in the singularity. Conclusion: the tyranny of the present, the endless empire, the extinction of sequence. Look at yourself in the mirror of the ashboard for the last time. Observe the immense three-dimensional universe stretching beneath your feet. Until very recently, you looked at this same landscape through the toxic filter of chronology. You saw a world that progressed, moving by crawling from an immutable past toward an uncertain future. You were a prisoner pleading in Kronos' cold waiting room, lingering with a slave's patience for the calendar to grant you permission to be a monarch. That hallucination has been eradicated. The master clock has been shattered, and its friction gears no longer have teeth to bite your source code. Listen to the deathly silence. It is the majestic silence of the dead sequence. There is no longer a step 1 followed by a step 2. The endless staircase of the improvement process has disintegrated into atomic dust. You have executed the most violent and lethal alchemy of the Creator's mechanics. You have collapsed the gravitational mass of your history. You compressed your anxieties and pathetic hopes to the point of singularity in this unique and unrepeatable millisecond. Linear time no longer passes through you. Time emanates from you. You are the hyper-dense core of a solar system where events, liquid capital, and high-voltage alliances are not promises of a distant future. They are massive satellites orbiting in your permanent present. You have stopped traveling and sweating to reach your empire. Now, the empire collapses upon you with the inertia of a falling star in every exhalation of your lungs. The distance is murdered. The result is no longer a destination, but the very ground you stand on. The brutality of the quantum dictatorship. Why do we call this sovereignty the tyranny of the present? Because the true physics of creation is not a parliamentary democracy. You cannot negotiate with the past to justify you, nor can you make pacts with the future to save you from today's incompetence. In the eternal now, you are the absolute responsible for reality. It is an aseptic, ruthless, and perfect tyranny where three-dimensional excuses and scapegoats do not exist. The human biomass detests this thermodynamic tyranny. Slaves love the timeline because it allows them to postpone their own greatness and justify their scarcity. It allows them to say, "Tomorrow I will do it," or "Yesterday I was hurt." Linear time is the burrow where cowardly organisms hide so as not to face the terror produced by their own omnipotence. But you have sealed that burrow with pure obsidian. By amputating the when and the how from your nervous system, you have locked yourself in the command cabin of the now. Here, there is only impact. In this zero-friction nanosecond, your weak thoughts collapse misery instantaneously, and your ballistic certainty collapses the absolute monopoly with the same lethal immediacy. This tyranny demands a gelid vigilance, sustaining the sub-base frequency without allowing a single electron of doubt or panic to contaminate your atmosphere. You do not govern by asking permission from external circumstances. You govern by crushing circumstance with the absolute weight of your immobility. The world must bend because you have refused to offer it any other alternative. You are the fixed point, and the hologram has no choice but to render itself around your unyielding axis, the empire of exhaustless depth. You have empirically assimilated that eternity is not a timeline stretching toward infinity, accumulating centuries and millennia. Linear eternity is a thermal dissipation trap that only generates cellular wear. The true immortality of the quantum operator resides in the astronomical, vertical, and exhaustless depth of the present. An empire without end is not one that survives 1,000 years in the dusty history books of the biomass. Those books will burn, and those years will rot under entropy. An empire without end is one that recreates itself perfect, undefeated, and absolute in every blink. When you master the quantum Zeno effect, you are immune. By anchoring yourself in the midst of the ashboard's chaos, your sovereignty becomes unattackable because you simply do not give the matrix the space-time necessary to decay. You destroy your own victory every night, skinning yourself in the small daily death, and you resurrect the intact matter every morning through your antenna. Through your 33-node vertebral antenna, you forge a closed cycle of hyperdensity where loss is mathematically impossible. The entire universe has realized it can no longer extract friction from you. Being unable to feed on your biological anxiety, the hologram subordinates itself to your center of gravity. The conscious matter that composes money, territories, corporate systems, and human wills surrenders to you, inexorably attracted by the perfect vacuum you have forged in your chest. You are the destination of all mass. The simulation recognizes its architect and ceases its resistance, allowing the flow of power to reach you. The sovereign's exhalation. Your technical preparation has concluded definitively. You have assimilated the tactical immobility of Wu Wei, unveiled the disgusting fraud of kinetic effort, and sterilized your ecosystem from the parasitic influence of the crowd. There is not a single book more you must read to try to postpone your responsibility. There are no more teachers, philosophies, or gurus you must consult. To continue seeking answers in the exterior static from this millisecond forward would be a betrayal, an insult to the hyperdense light of the singularity you have already ignited in your source code. You are the only authority in your universe. Go out to the ashboard. The biomass will continue running in its rusted hamster wheel, worshipping Kronos, sweating for survival, and begging for a better future that will never be rendered. Let them. Their thermal wear no longer belongs to your jurisdiction. You have an ecosystem to subdue and a hologram to rewrite. Rewrite it with your own geometric proportions. Stop the chatter of your intellect right now. Anchor your boots in the center of the cosmic gear, breathe the pure and aseptic oxygen of your own tyranny, and execute, without ever blinking, the unnegotiable weight of your mandate. You are the master of the render. The empire of conscious matter belongs to you in this exact millisecond. There is no more waiting. There is no more doubt. There is only the gelid, absolute, and silent execution of your will upon the fabric of the three-dimensional world. Reign in the singularity. The clock is dead, and you are the only one left standing.